Admiral Yuki Tanaka stood on the bridge of the battleship Tokyo Rising and watched her world die. The blue marble that was Earth filled the view screen. She had seen it 1,000 times before. But now, orange fire spread across the continents like a disease. The Vethrani bombardment had begun 6 hours ago. It would be over in another 6. Admiral, her first officer said. His voice was shaking. We have lost contact with Beijing, Moscow, and New York. London stopped responding 10 minutes ago. Yuki did not blink. She could not afford to blink. If she blinked, she would cry. If she cried, she would break. And billions of people were counting on her not to break. How many ships do we have? She asked. 47 combat vessels. 212 civilian transports. We have loaded approximately 4 million people. 4 million out of 9 billion. The number was so small it felt like a joke. A cruel, terrible joke. On the view screen, she could see the Vethrani fleet. There were thousands of ships. Their hulls were black and shaped like insects, which made sense because the Vethrani themselves looked like giant mantises. They had 6 arms, compound eyes, and no mercy. Why? Lieutenant Chen asked from his station. He was young, only 23. Why are they doing this? Yuki knew the answer. The Vethrani had told everyone the answer. They had broadcast it across all channels so that every species in the galaxy could hear. Their prophets wrote about us, she said. Thousands of years ago. They called us the young firebloods. They said we would one day burn the stars, so they decided to kill us first, before we could become dangerous. But we are not dangerous, Chen said. We just wanted to trade, to explore, to make friends. Yuki watched another continent catch fire. Australia was gone now. The entire southern hemisphere was glowing. It does not matter what we wanted, she said. It only matters what they feared. A communication alert flashed. Yuki pressed the button and a hologram appeared. It was Ambassador Thalrix of the Galactic Concord. He was a tall being with gray skin and 3 eyes. His species had been traveling the stars when humans were still living in caves. Admiral Tanaka, Thalrix said, I am calling to express the Concord's sympathy for your situation. Sympathy? Yuki's voice was ice. Your Concord has 200 species. You have millions of warships. You could stop this. Thalrix's 3 eyes blinked slowly. The Concord cannot interfere in disputes between member species and non-member species. Humanity never completed the application process for full membership. We are truly sorry. You are watching a genocide. 9 billion people are dying right now. And you are sorry? The Vethrani have presented evidence that humanity posed a future threat. The Concord has reviewed this evidence and found it sufficient. Yuki understood then. The Concord was not just refusing to help. They had approved this. They had given the Vethrani permission to wipe humanity from existence. I hope you remember this moment, Yuki said. I hope you remember it for the rest of your very long life. Because we will remember. Whatever is left of us will remember. She ended the call. Admiral, the sensor officer reported. Vethrani fighters are approaching. They have spotted us. Yuki looked at the evacuation status. 70% of the civilian ships were ready to jump. The rest needed more time. All combat vessels, form a defensive line, she ordered. We hold them here. We give our people time to escape. Admiral, we cannot win this fight, her first officer said. I know. We are not trying to win. We are trying to survive. There is a difference. The battle lasted 4 hours. Yuki lost 31 ships. She lost good men and women who had families on those civilian transports. They died so that others could run. When the last transport jumped to safety, Yuki gave the order to retreat. The Tokyo Rising and 15 other ships turned and ran into the darkness between stars. Behind them, Earth burned until there was nothing left to burn. The evacuation fleet gathered at a point far from any star. Yuki looked at the faces of the people who remained. 4 million humans. Children who would never see their homes again. Parents who had lost everything. Soldiers who had watched their planet die. Captain Marcus Webb of the cruiser Defiance requested a communication. His face appeared on screen. He was an old man with white hair and tired eyes. Admiral, where do we go? He asked. The colonies will fall. The Vethrani will not stop until every human is dead. Yuki had thought about this. She had thought about nothing else for 6 hours. The galactic rim, she said. And then beyond. Into the void between galaxies. They will not follow us there. Nothing lives there. We will die there, Webb said. Maybe. But we will die free. And maybe, just maybe, we will find a way to live. Webb nodded slowly. And then what? We hide forever? Yuki thought of Earth. She thought of her mother's garden in Kyoto, now ash. She thought of the billions of people who had trusted the galaxy to be fair. They had been wrong. No, she said. We will not hide forever. One day, we will come back. And when we do, the galaxy will know that they made a mistake. They should have killed all of us. They should have made sure no one survived. Webb smiled. It was a cold smile. A dangerous smile. Understood, Admiral. I will broadcast this to all ships. We are not running away. We are going to prepare. The last message sent from human space was recorded by a Concorde monitoring station. It was Webb's voice, speaking for all 4 million survivors. To anyone who hears this, we are the last of humanity. You called us weak. You watched us burn. You did nothing. But we are not dead. We are going into the darkness, and we will come back. This is not goodbye. This is a promise. We will remember. We will return. The message ended. The fleet jumped into the void. The Galactic Concorde officially classified humanity as remnant species number 4,217. The diplomats wrote reports saying that the human survivors would probably die within 3 generations. The Vethrani were congratulated for eliminating a potential threat, and then the galaxy forgot about the broken survivors who had run into the darkness. This was the biggest mistake the galaxy ever made. The void between galaxies was cold and empty. No stars, no planets, no hope. Just darkness that went on forever. The human fleet drifted through this darkness for 3 years. Ships broke down. People died. Food ran low. Some said it would have been better to die fighting the Vethrani than to slowly starve in the endless black. Admiral Yuki Tanaka was 71 years old now. Her hair had turned white. Her body was failing, but her mind was still sharp, and her anger still burned. Admiral, the science officer reported one morning, we have found something. On the view screen, there was a dot of warmth in the cold void. A rogue planet, drifting alone, heated by its own molten core. It had no sun. It had no life, but it had heat and minerals and space to build. That is our new home, Yuki said. They named it New Dawn. Building a civilization under the frozen surface of a rogue planet was almost impossible. But humans had learned that almost impossible was not the same as impossible. They dug deep. They built cities in the rock. They used the planet's heat to power their machines. Yuki lived long enough to see the first underground city completed. She gathered the leaders of the survivors in a great hall carved from stone. I am dying, she told them. But before I go, I must give you an order. The last order I will ever give. The room was silent. We cannot forget, Yuki said. We cannot forgive. We cannot become soft. Every generation must remember what was done to us. Every child must learn the names of the 12 colonies we lost. Every adult must know how to fight. One day, we will return to the galaxy, and when we do, we must be so strong that no one will ever think about hurting us again. She coughed. Blood came up. Her doctors moved toward her, but she waved them away. I am creating the Reclamation Doctrine. It has 3 rules. First, never forget. Second, never be weak. Third, never show mercy to those who showed us none. She died 2 days later. They buried her in the heart of New Dawn, in a tomb of crystal and steel. The words, "We remember," were carved above the entrance. 50 years passed. Then 100. Then 200. The Human Continuity Directorate governed New Dawn. It was part democracy and part military council. Every citizen had a voice. Every citizen also had a weapon and knew how to use it. Dr. Sarah Okonkwo was the head of weapons research. She was a small woman with kind eyes, but her mind was anything but kind. She spent her days thinking about how to kill the enemies of humanity. The Concorde banned certain types of research, she told her team. They said some weapons were too dangerous, too destructive. They made rules to keep young species weak. She smiled. It was not a nice smile. We are not part of the Concorde. Their rules do not apply to us. Her team developed void tech weapons. These weapons did not shoot bullets or lasers. They tore holes in the fabric of space itself. A void tech cannon could rip a battleship in half without ever touching it. No shield could stop it. No armor could protect against it. Dr. James Chen worked on a different project. He was trying to connect human minds together. The Vethrani fight as individuals, he explained. Each soldier thinks for himself. Each pilot makes his own decisions. But what if humans could think together? What if 1,000 soldiers could share one mind during battle? The neural hive link was born. It was voluntary and temporary. Soldiers could connect their minds and fight as one perfect organism. A human fleet with hive link could move like a single creature with 1,000 bodies. The most disturbing research was done by Dr. Elena Vasquez. She worked on death itself. The body wants to live, she said. Every cell fights to survive. I'm going to help the cells win. She created resurrection biology. Nanomachines were injected into every soldier. When that soldier was wounded, the nanomachines would repair the damage. Even fatal wounds could be healed. Even death could be reversed, if the brain was still intact. The first test subject was a volunteer named Private Thomas Reed. They shot him in the heart. He died on the operating table. His heart stopped for 4 minutes. Then the nanomachines went to work. His heart started beating again. His eyes opened. He sat up and asked for a glass of water. How do you feel? Dr. Vasquez asked. Reed thought about it. Hungry, he said, and a little angry. Is that normal? For a human? Vasquez smiled. Yes, that is very normal. 300 years after the fall of Earth, Director Kenji Okonkwo stood in the shipyard of New Dawn. He was the great-great-grandson of Dr. Sarah Okonkwo. He had her eyes and her smile. Before him floated the Reclamation Armada, 10,000 warships. Each one was a marvel of forbidden technology. Their hulls were black and smooth, designed to absorb sensor signals. Their engines left no trail. They could appear anywhere without warning. The smallest ship in the fleet could destroy a Vethrani battlecruiser. The largest could crack a planet in half. How many humans do we have now? Kenji asked his advisor. 200 million, Director. Every adult has completed military training. Every child knows the history. Every person is ready. Kenji nodded. He thought of his ancestor Yuki Tanaka, buried deep in the rock below. He thought of the 4 million broken survivors who had run into the darkness 3 centuries ago. They were not broken anymore. Send a message to all ships, Kenji said. Tell them to prepare for departure. It is time to go home. What should we tell the crew? What is our mission? Kenji looked at the fleet. He looked at the weapons that the galaxy had never seen. He looked at the soldiers who could not die. Our mission is simple, he said. We are going to remind the galaxy that humanity exists. We are going to show them what we have become. And we are going to make them understand that they should never have let us survive. The engines of 10,000 ships began to glow. After 300 years of silence, the ghosts were coming home. Captain Vrel of the Concorde survey vessel, Starlight, was bored. His ship had been scanning empty space for 6 months. Nothing interesting ever happened in the outer territories. Captain, his sensor officer said, I am detecting something strange. Strange how? There is a ship ahead, but it does not match any design in our database. Vrel looked at the view screen. The ship was small and sleek, with a black hull that seemed to drink in the light. No markings, no identification signals. It just floated there, watching them. Try to contact them, Vrel ordered. They sent messages in every language known to the Concorde. No response. The black ship just watched. Then, suddenly, a voice came through their speakers. It spoke in perfect Concorde standard. Survey vessel. You have entered human reclamation space. Turn back now. Vrel's blood went cold. Human? That is impossible. Humans went extinct 300 years ago. We did not go extinct. We went away. Now we are back. Turn around. This is your only warning. The black ship vanished. One moment it was there. The next moment it was gone. No flash of light. No engine trail. It simply disappeared. Vrel immediately sent a report to Concorde High Command. They told him he was mistaken. Humans were classified as a dead species. Whatever he had seen, it was not human. Vrel did not argue. But he also did not forget. 3 months later, something happened that the galaxy could not ignore. Korath Station was a trading post on the edge of Vethrani space. Officially, it sold goods and services. Unofficially, it was a slave market. The Vethrani had conquered many species over the centuries, and they needed somewhere to sell the survivors. On this particular day, the market was busy. Thousands of slaves waited in cages. Buyers walked between the cages, inspecting the merchandise. Vethrani guards stood everywhere, weapons ready. No one noticed the three humans. They wore simple clothes. They looked like traders. They walked calmly through the crowd, and no one looked twice at them. Commander Lisa Park was the leader. She was 40 years old and had been training for this mission her entire life. Her two companions were Sergeants David Webb and Amara Diallo. Positions, Park said quietly. The words went directly into the minds of her teammates through the neural hive link. No sound, no radio signal, just thought. Webb moved toward the power station. Diallo moved toward the slave cages. Park walked straight toward the command center. A Vethrani guard stopped her. "You, traitor. What species are you? I do not recognize you." Park smiled. "I am human." The guard laughed. "Human? Humans are dead. Nice joke. Now, show me your papers." Park moved so fast the guard did not even see her hand. She grabbed his throat and crushed it. He fell without making a sound. At that exact moment, Webb destroyed the power station. The lights went out. The security systems died. Chaos erupted. In the darkness, Park activated her combat mode. The nanomachines in her blood flooded her muscles with power. Her eyes adjusted to see heat instead of light. Every Vethrani in the station glowed like a torch. She drew her weapons. They were small pistols that fired concentrated gravity. Each shot created a tiny black hole that existed for 1 millisecond. That was enough to tear through any armor. The battle lasted 11 minutes. Park killed 70 guards. Webb killed 112. Diallo freed the slaves and killed another 200 guards who tried to stop her. When the emergency lights came back on, 400 Vethrani soldiers lay dead on the floor. Not a single slave had been harmed. Not a single human had been scratched. Park stood in the middle of the carnage. She activated the station's communication system. "This is Commander Lisa Park of the Human Reclamation Force. We were here. We freed your slaves. And this is just the beginning." The humans vanished before reinforcements arrived. No one knew how they escaped. They were simply gone. News of the attack spread across the galaxy. The Concord demanded answers. The Vethrani denied everything. They said it was impossible. Humans were extinct. This was clearly the work of some other species trying to cause trouble. But the slaves told their stories. They described the three fighters who moved like shadows. They described the weapons that made no sound. They described the woman who smiled as she killed. She said she was human, one freed slave reported, and I believed her. No other species has that much anger in their eyes. 2 weeks later, every communication device in the galaxy received the same message at the same time. It was broadcast on every frequency, in every language, through systems that the Concord did not even know existed. The message showed a human woman in a military uniform. Her name was Director Kenji Okonkwo, and she stood on the bridge of a massive warship. "To the Galactic Concord," she said. Her voice was calm and cold. "We are the Human Continuity Directorate. 300 years ago, you watched our species burn. You called us weak. You called us broken. You classified us as dead. You were wrong." The image changed to show the Reclamation Armada. 10,000 warships filled the screen. "To the Vethrani Dominion," Okonkwo continued. "You killed 9 billion of us. You destroyed our world. You thought you were safe because you finished the job. You were wrong." Her eyes seemed to look directly into the soul of every being watching. "You have 1 year. Release all slaves. Surrender your war criminals. Withdraw to your home system. If you do not, we will come for you. This is not a negotiation. This is not a threat. This is a notification of what will happen." The message ended. Supreme Commander Vethrax of the Vethrani Dominion watched the message 3 times. Then he laughed. 4 million survivors, he said to his generals. That is what escaped 300 years ago. Even if they bred like insects, they cannot have more than a few 100 million. We have trillions. We have 50,000 warships. Let them come. We will finish what we started. His generals agreed. The humans were bluffing. They had to be bluffing. The Vethrani did not release their slaves. They did not surrender their war criminals. They did not withdraw. They prepared for war instead. They had no idea what was coming. The 1-year deadline passed at midnight. Galactic Standard Time. Supreme Commander Vethrax stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. Around him floated the largest fleet the Vethrani had ever assembled. 50,000 warships, 20 million soldiers, enough firepower to burn 100 worlds. They will not come, his admiral said. The humans were bluffing. They know they cannot win. Vethrax nodded. Of course. But we will find them anyway. We will hunt them down and finish what we started 300 years ago. No more survivors this time. The Vethrani fleet had formed a massive defensive sphere around their home system. Every approach was covered. Every angle was protected. Nothing could get through without being detected and destroyed. At exactly 1 minute past midnight, the human fleet arrived. They did not come from outside the defensive sphere. They appeared inside it. 10,000 ships materialized out of nothing, already in perfect attack formation, already moving at combat speed. Impossible, Vethrax whispered. That is impossible. The ghost drives had worked perfectly. The human ships had traveled through a dimension that the Vethrani did not even know existed. They had bypassed every defense without triggering a single alarm. All ships, open fire, Vethrax screamed. The Vethrani fleet responded. Thousands of weapons blazed. Energy beams and missiles filled the space between the fleets. The human ships did not dodge. They did not need to. Their hulls were covered in a material that absorbed energy. Lasers disappeared into the black surface. Missiles exploded harmlessly against shields that bent space itself. Then the humans fired back. Captain Marcus Webb III commanded the destroyer Defiance. It was named after his great-great-grandfather's ship, the one that had sent the final message before humanity fled into the void. Today, he would honor that name. Target the lead battlecruiser, he ordered. His voice went directly into the minds of his crew through the hive link. Every thought was shared. Every action was coordinated. They moved as one being with 100 bodies. The Defiance fired its main weapon. A beam of twisted space shot across the void and struck the Vethrani battlecruiser. The ship did not explode. It was worse than that. The beam tore a hole in reality itself. The battlecruiser was pulled into the hole, stretched and compressed at the same time, and then simply stopped existing. Target destroyed, Webb reported. Moving to next target. All across the battlefield, similar scenes played out. Human ships cut through the Vethrani fleet, like knives through paper. The Vethrani had numbers, but numbers meant nothing against weapons that ignored physics. Supreme Commander Vethrax watched in horror as his fleet died around him. Fall back. All ships fall back to the planet, but the human ships were faster. They appeared behind the retreating Vethrani, cutting off escape routes. They appeared above and below, surrounding the enemy from every direction. Commander Lisa Park led the boarding assault on the Eternal Dominion itself. Her team of 50 soldiers cut through the hull with gravity blades and poured into the ship. Vethrani soldiers met them in the corridors. They outnumbered the humans 20-1. It did not matter. Park took a shot to the chest. The impact threw her backward. She felt her heart stop. She felt death reaching for her. Then the nanomachines went to work. Her heart started again. The wound closed. She stood up and kept fighting. A Vethrani officer watched in disbelief as the human woman he had just killed rose from the floor. "What are you?" he gasped. Park shot him with her gravity pistol. "We are what you made us," she said. On the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, Supreme Commander Vethrax prepared for his last stand. His guards surrounded him, weapons raised. The doors were sealed. Nothing could get through. The wall exploded inward. Park walked through the smoke, covered in blood that was not her own. Behind her came her soldiers. They had fought through 1,000 Vethrani to reach this moment. "Supreme Commander Vethrax," Park said, "you are under arrest for crimes against humanity. You will be taken to stand trial." Vethrax raised his weapon. "I would rather die." "I know," Park said. "That is why we are not going to kill you." She moved faster than he could see. His weapon was knocked away. His arms were pinned. He was on the ground before he understood what had happened. "You will live," Park told him as she put restraints on his arms. "You will face justice. You will hear the names of 9 billion dead read aloud. And then you will spend the rest of your very long life knowing what you did." The battle lasted 18 hours. When it was over, 80% of the Vethrani fleet was destroyed. The rest had surrendered. Human losses were minimal. 47 ships damaged, 300 soldiers killed. most of whom were revived by their nanomachines. Director Kenji Okonkwo landed on Sethrak Prime, the Vethrani homeworld. His shuttle touched down in the main plaza, surrounded by the ruins of the Planetary Defense Center. Millions of Vethrani watched from their homes. They expected death. They expected revenge. The humans had every right to burn this world the way the Vethrani had burned Earth. Okonkwo walked to a podium that had been set up in the plaza. Cameras broadcast his image to every corner of the galaxy. "People of the Vethrani Dominion," he said, 300 years ago, your leaders decided to kill my species. They called us a threat. They said we would one day burn the stars, so they burned our world first." He paused. The silence was absolute. "We could do the same to you. We have the weapons. We have the power. No one in this galaxy could stop us." The Vethrani held their breath. "But we are not you," Okonkwo said. "We do not kill children for the crimes of their ancestors. We do not destroy civilizations because of prophecies. We are humanity. We are better than that." He straightened his uniform. "Your war criminals will be arrested and tried. Your military will be disbanded. Your slaves will be freed. But your people will live. Your children will grow up. Your species will survive. Because we refuse to become the monsters you tried to make us." A human soldier brought Supreme Commander Vethrax forward in restraints. The being who had ordered the death of 9 billion people looked small and weak now. "This is justice," Okonkwo said. "Not revenge. Remember the difference. And remember that we showed you mercy when you showed us none." He turned and walked back to his shuttle. Behind him, the Vethrani Dominion fell. Not in fire and death, as they had expected, but in shame and realization. They had tried to destroy humanity. Instead, they had created something far more dangerous than they could have imagined. They had created a species that could have taken revenge but chose not to. And somehow, that was more terrifying than any weapon. 5 years had passed since the fall of the Vethrani Dominion. The galaxy was a different place now. Ambassador Thalrix walked through the halls of the Galactic Concord headquarters. He was old now. Very old. His gray skin had faded to almost white, and his 3 eyes no longer saw as clearly as they once did. But he remembered everything. He remembered watching Earth burn. He remembered voting not to help. Today, he had a meeting that he had requested 3 years ago. Today, he would finally face the consequences of his choice. The door to the conference room opened. Director Kenji Okonkwo sat at a simple table, alone. No guards. No weapons. Just a man and 2 cups of tea. "Ambassador Thalrix," Okonkwo said. "Please sit. I made tea. I am told your species enjoys it." Thalrix sat. His hands were shaking. "I have come to apologize," Thalrix said. "I was there when the vote happened. The vote to let the Vethrani destroy your people. I voted against intervention. I told myself that humanity was too young, too weak, too unimportant to risk Concord lives for. I was wrong." Okonkwo sipped his tea. His face showed nothing. "You watched 9 billion people die," Okonkwo said. "Mothers and fathers, children and grandparents, artists and scientists, farmers and teachers. You watched them burn, and you did nothing." "Yes," Thalrix whispered. "And now you want forgiveness?" Thalrix's 3 eyes filled with tears. "I do not deserve forgiveness. I know this. I came because I needed you to know that I understand what I did. I needed you to know that I will carry this shame until I die." Okonkwo set down his cup. For a long moment, he just looked at the old alien. "We thought you were broken," Thalrix said finally. "When the survivors fled into the void, we thought they would die there. We thought the human species was finished. We were so certain. We were broken," Okonkwo said. "You were right about that. But broken things can be fixed. And sometimes, when they are fixed, they become stronger than they were before." He stood and walked to the window. Outside, the capital city of the Concord spread out in every direction. Billions of beings lived there, representing hundreds of species. And now, humanity was part of this community. Not as a minor species, not as survivors. As equals. "We healed with purpose," Okonkwo said. "Every generation remembered what was done to us. Every generation worked to make sure it would never happen again. That anger kept us alive. That pain made us strong." "Are you still angry?" Thalrix asked. Okonkwo turned to face him. "Every day, every single day. But I have learned that anger is a fire. You can let it burn you from the inside, or you can use it to light your way. We chose to use it. Thalric stood slowly. What happens now? The Concord is terrified of humanity. They see your weapons. They see your soldiers who cannot die. They wonder when you will turn on them. They should wonder, Okonkwo said. Fear is healthy. It reminds people to think before they act. But we are not conquerors. We never wanted power. We only wanted to be safe. We only wanted to be left alone. He walked back to the table and poured more tea. We have established new colonies. We have rebuilt our population. We have shared some of our technology with species who were oppressed by the Vithrani, and we have kept the rest of our technology to ourselves, because we learned an important lesson 300 years ago. What lesson? Thalrix asked. Trust must be earned. The galaxy watched us die and did nothing. We will work with the Concord. We will trade with them. We will help them when we can. But we will never completely trust them again, and we will never, ever let ourselves be weak. The door opened. A young human woman entered. She had dark skin and bright eyes, and she wore the uniform of the Reclamation Guard. Director, the memorial ceremony is about to begin, she said. Okonkwo nodded. Thank you, Lieutenant. He turned to Thalrix. You should come with me. You should see this. The memorial ceremony was held in space, at the coordinates where Earth had once orbited its sun. There was nothing there now, just empty space and cosmic dust. The Vithrani bombardment had been so complete that not even rubble remained. 1,000 ships gathered at this spot every year. Human ships and, now, ships from other species as well. Species that humanity had freed from Vithrani slavery. Species that had learned what the Concord really was. An organization that would let genocide happen if it was politically convenient. Director Okonkwo stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Yuki Tanaka, named after the admiral who had led the survivors to safety. Named after the woman whose last order had created the force that would one day return. Today we remember Earth, Okonkwo said. His voice was broadcast to every ship. We remember 9 billion lives that were taken from us. We remember the 12 colonies that fell. We remember the darkness we fled into, and the strength we found there. On every human ship, soldiers stood at attention. Civilians bowed their heads. Children who had never seen Earth, whose parents had never seen Earth, whose grandparents had only heard stories about Earth, closed their eyes and felt the weight of history. We do not remember to feed our anger, Okonkwo continued. We remember to honor those who died. We remember to appreciate what we have rebuilt. And we remember so that we never forget the most important truth, that survival is not enough. We must be strong enough that no one ever dares to hurt us again. A young girl stood with her family on one of the colony ships. Her name was Hope Tanaka. She was the great-great-great-granddaughter of Admiral Yuki Tanaka. She was only 7 years old, but she knew all the words by heart. We remember, she whispered along with millions of other humans. We endure. Her parents added. We overcome, the whole fleet said together. Ambassador Thalrix watched from his own ship. Tears ran down his face. He understood now. He understood why the humans had not taken revenge. He understood why they had shown mercy. They had proven something that the Concord never believed possible. They had proven that strength and compassion could exist together. That power did not have to corrupt. That the broken could heal and become something beautiful. Humanity had returned to the galaxy, not as victims, not as conquerors, not as monsters. They had returned as survivors. And survivors, as the galaxy was learning, were the most dangerous beings in the universe, because they knew what it meant to lose everything. They knew what it meant to be weak, and they would never, ever be weak again. The memorial ceremony ended. The ships began to disperse, returning to their homes and duties. But before she left, young Hope Tanaka pressed her hand against the window of her ship and looked out at the empty space where Earth had been. I will remember you, she promised the ghosts of 9 billion people. We all will. Forever. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, in the void where humanity had hidden and healed and grown strong, the spirit of Admiral Yuki Tanaka smiled. Her people had survived. Her promise had been kept. The broken had become unbreakable.